those of you who are keeping track, this Tuesday will be Bach's 338th birthday. And so I decided to play the prelude, his very first in the series of the Well-Tempered Clavier, which is a fearful thing for any piano player. But this happens to be the easiest one of the bunch and also extremely beautiful, simple but very complex musically. So happy birthday, Bach.
Thank you, Forrest. Do we have the mic on for me? Could we get that on? Hello?
Yes.
On? Good?
Oh, is that on?
Okay, there we go. First thing you get is a little giggle, huh? Okay, so welcome to this gathering hosted by the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green. Whether you are here in person or online, we are glad that you are joining us. My name is Laura McGee, and I'll be your service associate this morning. We ask that you please now make sure your cell phones are set to silent so that we can all be present fully for this time together. We are a welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, however you identify, wherever you come from, and whoever you love, you are welcome here. Our Sunday services are different each week so that we can honor and learn from our wide array of traditions and beliefs. Today, our speaker is Jennifer Hundley-Batts. Though we each walk our own path here in this place, on the land of the Osage, the Cherokee, and the Shawnee, and the Yuchi, and now, at this time, we journey together as one community. For Unitarian Universalists, the flaming chalice is the symbol of the light of learning and the love of our community. This morning, our chalice will be lit by John Foreman. As our congregation's chalice is lit, please light your own chalice at home if you have one. Join us in singing, Rise Up, O Flame. John will give us our opening words.
This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
At this time, we invite the children who are here to go for religious exploration. And James Miller in the blue shirt right there is leading that this Sunday. So we would love for you to go with James if you would like. Our hymn is number 300, With Heart and Mind.
John Downing is going to lead us in this hymn. So stand as you are willing and able. We will now have a few moments for meditation, reflection, and prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. After the silence, you are invited to join in the song, Spirit of Life. The words will be on the screen.
John Foreman will now lead us in a responsive reading. The text is number 515 in the gray hymnal. Oh, I think Foreman.
We lift up our hearts in thanks for the sun and the dawn which we did not create, the moon and the evening which we did not make, for food which we plant but cannot grow, for friends and loved ones we have not earned and cannot buy, for this gathered company which welcomes us as we are from wherever we have come, all our free churches that keep us human and encourage us as our quest for beauty, truth, and love, for all things which come to us as gifts of being from sources beyond ourselves, gifts of light and love and friendship, we lift up our hearts in thanks this day.
We are very pleased to have with us this morning Jennifer Hundley-Batts to speak. Jennifer has returned to her family farm in Stanley, a little farming community west of Owensboro. She enjoys taking care of the farm and reading books by the pond. Jennifer is a 2018 graduate of Central Seminary and works in Owensboro as a middle school education teacher and as a chaplain for Owensboro Health Regional Hospital. She is also a candidate for ministry with our UUA. Please welcome Jennifer.
Good morning. Morning. So good to be with you all today. Canadian author Danielle Laporte writes, "Right now, there are Tibetan Buddhist monks in a temple in the Himalayas endlessly reciting mantras for the cessation of your suffering and for the flourishing of your happiness. Someone you haven't met yet is already dreaming of adoring you. Someone is writing a book that you will read in the next 2 years that will change how you look at life. Nuns in the Alps are in endless vigil, praying for the Holy Spirit to alight the hearts of all God's children. A farmer is looking at his organic crops and whispering, 'Nourish them.' Someone wants to kiss you, to hold you, to make tea for you. Someone is willing to lend you money, wants to know what your favorite food is, and treat you to a movie. Someone in your orbit has something immensely valuable to give you for free. Something is being invented this year that will change how your generation lives, communicates, heals, and passes on. The next great song is being rehearsed. Thousands of people are in yoga classes right now, intentionally sending light out from their heart chakras and wrapping it around the earth. Millions of children are assuming that everything is amazing and will always be that way. Someone is in profound pain, and a few months from now, they'll be thriving like never before. From where they are, they just can't see it. Someone who is craving to be partnered, to be acknowledged, to arrive, will get precisely what they want and even more. And because that gift will be so fantastical in its reach and sweetness, it will quite magically alter their memory of the angsty longing and render it all so worth the wait. Someone has recently cracked open their joyous, genuine nature because they did the hard work of hauling years of oppression out of their psyche. This luminous juju is floating in the ether and is accessible to you. Someone just this second wished for world peace in earnest. Some civil servant is making sure you get your mail and your garbage is picked up and the trains are running on time and that you are generally safe. Someone is dedicating their days to protecting your civil liberties and clean drinking water. Someone is regaining their sanity. Someone is coming back from the dead. Someone is genuinely forgiving the seemingly unforgivable. Someone is curing the incurable. You, me, some, one, now. So what is your job in all this? And what is mine? What is it for us to do? I propose it comes down to these 6 things. Take care of yourself, guard your energy, show up for others, see what they need, do what you can, and then rest and renew. On this very day in 2016, I was in Thailand with most of my cohort, who I call my seminary sisters, some of my professors and other school staff, and the president of my seminary, because Central Seminary wanted all of us in their Women's Leadership Initiative to have an international, immersive experience. We visited Buddhist temples and Christian churches. We visited several missions where love is at work in that part of the world. It was humbling and empowering. Some of it was bold and loud. Some was quiet and gentle. But so many people there were contributing to the magic that makes life shimmer. I cried a lot while I was there. And I felt my heart literally grow warm. My lungs would fill with that long inhale of awareness at what one person would do to help another in this life. It was easy then while I was on that trip because it was a slice in time out of my normal life. And it was easier to see how powerful love is, how tender and strong community can be. Coming home brought me back to a nagging question that I'd had for years. What was it for me to do to make my corner of the world a better place? What would be the path for this work to begin in my community and for it to carry on time after time, need after need, for weeks and months and years? I love a good list, so I started there with those 6 things. 6 things to help us know what it is for us to do. So step 1, take care of yourself. You can't do much for others if you don't take care of yourself first. Self-care is not self-indulgence. Remember what the flight attendant tells you before the plane takes off, that, if something terrible happens, you're supposed to put your own oxygen mask on first before you attempt to help anyone else. Last weekend was my on-call weekend at the hospital, and that work is such a blessing to me even when it's hard, maybe especially when it's hard. Some people think that providing pastoral care in a hospital setting ranges only from sad to utterly devastating, and sometimes that's true. But I'm also privileged to be present for some of the most loving and beautiful moments life has to offer. I get to see heroic acts carried out that save lives, ease suffering, provide comfort to families when really that's all that you can do. We can't stop bad things from happening, but we can show up when they do. We can show up for one another when showing up is all there is. During my drive into the hospital, I engage step 2, which is to guard my energy. Sometimes I know what the call is, and so I can prepare for that. Sometimes I only know a little, and sometimes I know nothing at all. So I use that drive time to center myself, to clear my mental space so that I can show up, really show up for people and be present. Many times it seems like that's all there is to be done, just to show up and be there. There are some times that all I do is make a fresh pot of coffee or grab a couple bottles of cold water. Sometimes my role is to help patients and their families get in touch with their sources of strength, whether it's their theology, their minister, their friends, or their memories. Sometimes my presence is all that's needed. Someone just to ground patients and their families, to serve as a reminder that they are not alone in whatever has just happened to them. But sometimes the patients and the families that I minister to there are going through what minutes before was unfathomable. Sudden cardiac arrest, a traumatic accident, a diagnosis that will change them and their family forever. I've been on the floor with a mother who has gone into shock upon learning the worst. I've baptized babies born too soon, born with conditions that are not compatible with life, babies longed for and hoped for and prayed for and already loved. Patients who have just learned some news that will change the course of the rest of their lives. Children facing the death of a loved one for the first time. But I can't be a help to any of those people if I take on their pain. I'm there to be in those hard places with them, but I must, and we all must, guard our energy so that we can be and can remain a calm and steady presence for other people. Guarding my energy there can feel like taking a short walk or taking a deep breath, taking slow, deliberate steps into the room, heel to toe and heel to toe, or touching the talisman I keep in my pocket, reminding myself that in the midst of the shock and the pain and the devastation, an entire hospital full of people showed up to work that day to do what they could do to make it all a little better. And that's step 3, just show up. Sometimes showing up can be enough. Show up with a meal, with the Easter lilies you just cut from the side of the road. Sometimes showing up with empty hands, but a heart full of love when that's all that you can do. Some of you here, I think a lot of you here with us in the sanctuary today, remember our own beloved Mary Ann Johnson. The night she learned the news of her last worst diagnosis, she had sent many of us an email to update us on what the doctors had said. She didn't have the energy to call all of us individually and repeat the story over and over. But I read those words and I couldn't not show up for her. With nothing in my hands, her words still sinking into the parts of my brain that are supposed to make sense of the absurd, I drove from my house to hers, and when we met at her door, we just hugged. And that's step 4, see the need. There wasn't much I could do for my precious friend at that moment, but show up, and because I did, I saw that the need she had was just to be held. No words could make that night better, no meal or card or poem, but a hug did. Her body wrapped in my arms. That was all I could do, but it was what she needed at the moment. Which is step 5, just do what you can. This step is a hard one for me because I almost always want to do more. There's almost always more to be done, but none of us can do it all, which may mean that we make the coffee, or deliver the meal, or clear the downed trees again and again. You can only do what it is that you can do, but the message that accompanies those acts of love and care is much greater than any cup of fresh coffee. It's warmer than any embrace. It's more nourishing than any casserole or card. And the message is that we are in this together and that we are never alone. Step 6 is one I'm getting better at. It's to rest and renew. While I was in seminary, one of my internships was at Hospice of Southern Kentucky. I was surprised to learn that even in your first year of employment there, vacation time is very generous. If memory serves, it was a full 6 weeks from the day you're hired. I remember being so surprised to learn that. It seemed so generous, but then when I started doing that work, I realized that it was necessary. A book that has earned a prominent space on my bookshelf is Wayne Muller's Sabbath, Finding Rest and Renewal and Delight in Our Busy Lives. Muller writes, "When we know the seasons of things, we can feel their timing, their readiness. There is less pushing and more waiting to see what is necessary. If we do not make time to rest and recognize what season we're in, we can't be ready. That's how you burn out." Wayne Muller's book is a treasure, and if you're not familiar with it, this is my official recommendation to you. He implores us to remember the Sabbath, a time of rest. In our current social and cultural context, Sabbath hardly has space to be, so you can't wait to find time for it. You must make Sabbath time, and you must keep it. When I was growing up, it was a lot easier to keep the Sabbath because stores were closed and there wasn't any internet, so you couldn't online shop all day and get all the things that you have to have on a Sunday afternoon. There was just rest. And rest is a precious ointment, Wayne Muller tells us. Cartoons, church, a big Sunday breakfast, and then napping, visiting family and neighbors, some play, another big meal. That was the rhythm of our Sabbath. We decompressed, we nourished our bodies, we rested, we played, we connected with our neighbors. This Sabbath time was and is taking care of ourselves, which helps us understand that we have to guard our energy, which is what allows us to show up for others and see their needs and do what we can. Rest is holy. Being of service to others is holy. Honoring the natural rhythm of the seasons, of our lives, of the world we share with one another, that is holy. This book, it's so good. Mine is all marked up and highlighted and dog-eared. And one of my favorite pages is where Muller writes about the tides and how the waves, they churn up the seaweed and the sea glass, but then they sweep it all away again. He says that perhaps the most recognizable quality of creation is this rhythmicity, the pulsing light and dark, expansion and contraction, the seasons and tides, the cycles of growth and dormancy, of life, death, and regeneration are unmistakable characteristics of all living things, from the smallest microbe to the largest galaxy. He says, fruit contains the seed, and the seed contains the fruit. What we harvest in this season provides the seed for the next season. In Sabbath time, we taste the fruit of our labor and prepare the seeds for the week to come. If we are too busy, If we do not rest, we miss this rhythm. One day we look up and it is winter. And where are the fall days, the brisk and clear days with leaves ablaze? How did we spend them and what were we doing? We do not gauge the value of the seasons by how quickly they progress from one to the next. Every season brings forth its bounty in its own time, and our life is richer when we can take time to savor the fruits of each. In the fall, we chop and carry our wood, gather the harvest, rake the leaves, prepare our home for winter, and give thanks. In winter, we are dormant, a time for quiet generosities and reflection on the endurance of inner light in the midst of darkness. In the spring, we prepare soil for planting. We prune what has been lost or dried up. We feed the soil and plant what is needed and take delight in the flowers. In summer, we tend the garden, watch for weeds and crowding, thin what needs the air and the sun, at rest in the freedom of long days and warm nights, losing ourselves in the gift of sweet air and time. Some things, he says, grow only in time. So even though I'm not always the best model for my 6 steps, I believe that it is for us to love the world. There are times that our whole world is just one person, and that person is hurting or lonely or ill, and our job is just to show up with love. There are times when our world is those with whom we share this community, this state, this part of the country, or someplace halfway around the world. So how does all of that apply to us as a congregation? How do we take care of ourselves? What boundaries are set to enable this congregation to guard its energy, to rest and renew, to show up, to see what needs doing and do it? How do the people who make up this church guard their personal energy and the collective energy of this community so that the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green can remain here for the long run? How does this church show up for others? When and why does this church leave the building? What needs do you see in the church community and in our community at large? What is it that you can do? Toward what direction can you give us a nudge? And how do you rest? How do you keep Sabbath in this beautiful sanctuary, in your own hearts, so that the things which grow only in time can seed and can grow and can bear fruit? My parents took us to church almost every Sunday, but the real work of our faith was done once we'd left the building. We were part of a community. From them and from that time, from all those acts of care, I learned that it is for us to love the world. This morning, I would like to leave you with a poem by American poet Julia Castorf called What I Learned from My Mother. But I hope you carry all of these questions home. I hope you tuck them away down in your heart and in your mind, and I hope each of you can work on answering them together. So, what I learned from my mother. I learned from my mother how to love the living, to have plenty of vases on hand in case you have to rush to the hospital with peonies cut from the lawn, black ants still stuck to the buds. I learned to save jars large enough to hold fruit salad for a whole grieving household, to cube home-canned pears and peaches, to slice through maroon grape skins and flick out the sexual seeds with a knife point. I learned to attend viewings, even if I didn't know the deceased, to press the moist hands of the living, to look in their eyes and offer sympathy as though I understood loss even then. I learned that whatever we say means nothing. What anyone will remember is that we came. I learned to believe I had the power to ease awful pains materially, like an angel. Like a doctor, I learned to create from another suffering my own usefulness. And once you know how to do this, you can never refuse. To every house you enter, you must offer healing. A chocolate cake you baked yourself, the blessing of your voice, or your chaste touch. May it be so, and amen.
This congregation and the work that we do is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who contribute. The offering is the sacrament of the Free Church. Our greeters will now pass the collection plate. You may also use the QR code on the screen or donate by way of our website. As we enjoy the music, the offering will be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. This is the third Sunday. And Diane, do you want to say something about that? So, this congregation chooses an organization or a cause to receive gifts on the third Sunday in particular. And so Diane is going to tell us about the beneficiary this month.
The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregation and in society at large is our fifth principle. Our third Sunday beneficiary today exemplifies this principle, the League of Women Voters of Kentucky. The League is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that promotes informed and active participation of citizens in government through study and action, 7 chapters in the state, and at least 5 of our UU women in this congregation are active members in the new Southern Kentucky League. Anyone 16 and over may join, both male and female, and I encourage you to do so. The League does not support individual candidates or political parties, though it has taken a stand on several policy issues impacting women. For example, the League advocated for a no vote on Amendment 2 in the last election, which would have codified the ban on abortion in Kentucky's Constitution if it had not been defeated. To that end, the League provided lawn signs throughout the state, and 75 of which were dispensed from this church. The League is also lobbying to restore voting rights to people who have felony convictions after they have completed their sentences. As it stands, these individuals are permanently disenfranchised, and it would take a constitutional amendment to change that. Do you think more people should vote? The League does, and seeks to register all possible and get them to the polls. Do you believe in transparency in local government? The League has an observer corps for watching government and school board meetings. The League wants to create fair maps after recent gerrymandered redistricting. They would like an independent group to draw the maps. And finally, the League will be promoting and supporting the Equal Rights Amendment. Democracy is not guaranteed. Please give generously as you are willing and able to this active and worthy organization. Thank you.
Tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed of playing the fool? One thing can lead to another. It doesn't take any sacrifice. Whoa. only will. Oh, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Well, you can run, but you cannot hide. This is what I know. Listen, what do you plan to do with your foolish pride when you're all by yourself alone? But you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it begin to ease. I think it's true what they say about the squeaky wheel, always getting the grease. That tells you shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. I know things are gonna be just fine if we only will. Oh, what I like to say, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Sing with me, please. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel.
We thank you for these gifts. May we use them wisely in the service of our congregation and our community. We would like to take a moment to thank those volunteers who made this service possible today. Thank you for Jennifer. Thank you to Jennifer for coming to speak with us, to Forrest and John for the awesome music. Thank you to Matt Hazel, who's behind the curtain running tech for us. Thank you to James Miller, who is providing religious exploration guidance to our children. Okay. Thank you all for sharing your time and talent with our community. We have a few items of community news that have been submitted. So what I have here, this is from Diane Lewis. If you would like to learn more about our church and Unitarian Universalism, please join us for an event that we call Getting to Know UU from 6:30 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, March 28th. If you're a newcomer, a visitor, or someone who's thinking about membership, this would be a good evening of community and sharing by all. If you have a question about what to expect, please talk to one of our membership team members. And I'm going to name a few of those people who are in the room and ask you just to hold your hand up high so people have a chance to actually see you. That would be Sharon Crawford in green on the front here. Eileen, yes, Arnold, right over there. And Nancy Garrett, yes, in the second row. So please talk to any of those individuals if you would like to know a little bit more. Or talk to any of us after the service at our fellowship time. So, okay. So we have our last hymn. Oh, yeah. Well, that's another very important announcement.
Yes, Michelle Steiner asked me actually to tell you folks that she's had a few people sign up, but not as many as she wanted. Of course, I haven't yet, and I know John hasn't yet, and other people haven't yet. But please sign up to do something, even if it's just to read a poem or share a story about anything, or sing a song, or if you need some accompaniment, ask me. We're around. But also, is there a show of hands about how many people are planning to be there on Friday night? Do we know? Okay, excellent. She asked me to do this, so Michelle, if you're watching out there, YouTube land, you've got your answer. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for saying something about that, Forrest. We certainly got a lovely taste of that music during the offertory, so yes. Sharon, did you have something?
There is an orange sheet of paper going around with a clipboard. If you were interested in the getting to know you, if you would just put that information, contact information on there, and we would welcome you so much that evening.
Thank you. Okay, an orange sign-up sheet is going around for the Getting to Know You event on March 28th.
It doesn't make it all the way around. It'll be on a little table right outside the store.
Okay, all right. So I think we are ready for the last hymn. It's 299, and Forrest is going to lead us.
John Downing is going to be leading our
All right, okay.
One thing that we learned a long time ago in this church, if you want him to keep showing up, just give him something to do, and boy, he'll be there. Please stand as you are willing or able.
Make channels for the streams above, where they may boldly run, and love with overflowing stream fill the clear one. What if at any time would be this candle's earth provide the very clouds of love for us will soon be parched and dried. For we must share if we would keep this gift all else above. We cease to give and cease to have. Such is the law of love.
So we have a final reading from Jennifer.
Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become wholly ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being common to us all and to all living things. Evoking the presence of the great compassion, let us fill our hearts with our own compassion towards ourselves and towards all living beings. Let us pray that we ourselves cease to be the cause of suffering to each other. With humility, with awareness of the existence of life and of the sufferings that are going on around us, let us practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. Amen.
It is at this time that we bid farewell to those who have joined us online. I know we have at least one viewer from Africa today, so So, we hope you found this service meaningful, and we invite you to join us again. Be well and go in peace.